GTA 4, Dark Souls, Arkham Knight, all great contenders for the title of the most unoptimized PC game on the market. As bad as they may seem performance-wise, they don't quite compare to the incredibly and somewhat hilariously terrible Saints Row 2 PC port. Despite the community working together to release patches that clear up a lot of the issues, the vanilla game is still something quite magnificent to behold, but not for the right reasons. Today's video is a little different, as you may have noticed, but I hope you guys enjoy it nonetheless. The 5 graphics cards you see before you, bar the exception of the 8800 GTS on the left, will all handle even the latest games with relative ease at Full HD. You may have to reduce the settings, but let's just say most games pre-2012 will run at their highest settings above or beyond 30 FPS, 60 a lot of the time. Granted, a couple of exceptions to this rule may include Crysis or GTA 4, but turning down graphical quality or resolution with those will iron out most of the flaws. But what if I told you none of these cards will run Saints Row 2 smoothly, even at the lowest in-game settings? That's right, 480p included. You probably wouldn't believe me. So why does Saints Row 2 run so badly on PC? Well, it's a direct port based on the Xbox 360 version, though it's very CPU bound and ideally needs a 3.2 GHz processor to run at its best, because this is the speed of the 360's CPU. The further you get from that speed, the more bugs you'll encounter. I've directly combated this by using my Ryzen 5 1600, which is clocked natively at 3.2 GHz and is much faster than anything you would have found at the time of this game's release. But you'll soon see that even having a decent processor to use with this game is probably about as useful as a handbrake on a canoe, as the game just can't make very good use of your PC's resources. Normally an operating system will allocate more memory to a program that needs it after unloading other prefetched data, but for some reason this isn't the case here. So whether you have Intel HD, Nvidia or AMD graphics and more than meet the supposed recommended specs, there's no guarantee you'll be able to play the game smoothly, as the game just doesn't care about your GTX or your Radeon HD, as I shall now demonstrate. Let's start off with the 8800 GTS. Not a powerful card by today's standards, but with the game recommending an 8800 GT or HD 3800 series GPU, this is the sort of thing that you should have felt confident going into this game with back in 2009. I've tested the game at both 1080p at the highest settings along with 480p at the lowest settings today to give you an idea of what to expect at both ends of the spectrum. As you can see, the game does not like this card at all at 1080p with very low frame rates. Maybe Full HD is a little much for this thing, so what about the absolute lowest settings? This is Saints Row 2 at 480p. Although the average has improved, the percentile figures demonstrate the level of stutter that can be seen. Neither the CPU or GPU are holding the game back, as they just aren't being utilised very well, so let's move on to more powerful hardware. This is the HD 7950. Jumping back into the game, and once again we see a pretty terrible result at 1080p. The average of 38 isn't that bad, but thanks to the stutter that accompanies it, it's near enough impossible to enjoy the game, and our hardware isn't really being used to its full capability. However, it is still an improvement, and at 480p we saw a delightful 62 FPS. I don't believe the Steam version is capped either, and the percentile figures on screen give us a better idea of performance, and at 38 and 22 respectively, it actually fared okay at this res, with a few freezes and an eventual crash to the desktop. So now that we're getting toward the realms of playable, surely my ASUS Mars 2 can make light work of this game. With 2 GTX 580s on a single card, it's a slightly old school but still powerful beast, although SLI is unfortunately off the table here, as I just could not get it to work. Storming ahead with our single GTX 580, and what's very interesting is that at 1080p the game ran almost exactly the same as the 7950, down to the percentile figures, and once again indicated heavy stuttering and freezes. At 480p, well, I think it's safe to say we're almost having a superb experience, albeit with a little lag here and there. So now it's time for the big boys, the GTX 1060 and 1070. This is where Saints Row 2 meets its maker. Prepare for frame rates like you've never seen them before. Actually, that statement is still sort of correct, but not in the way I hoped. The 1060 at 1080p averages out at 43 frames per second with, you guessed it, major stutter and lag. At sub HD 480p our figures once again show that the game will now run smoother overall, but will suffer from technical issues no matter where you are on the map. I stuck within this same sort of section for a fair test, and all results were taken after 20 minutes of gameplay. Finally, the The GTX 1070 steps up to the plate. With 8GB of VRAM and a recommended retail price of over $350, this is surely the game changer, right? Wrong. 1080p doesn't fare too differently from the other cards, and once again the 1% and 0.1% lows tell us everything we need to know about steady performance, none of which this game exhibits. So is it any smoother here at 480p? Well, while the average comes in at a delightful 60, it's still not really that playable. The resolution itself doesn't actually bother me that much, and by now you'll probably be tearing your hair out and rushing out to buy an Xbox 360 or PS3 if you want to play this game. But hold on just a second, because the gaming community have fixed a lot of the issues through things like the Gentleman of the Row Mega Mod and other community released patches that can improve performance somewhat, though the vanilla game will still likely give users trouble for years to come, no matter the hardware. I actually really like this game though, and just to clear things up, I went back and tweaked various settings, turning certain things off and other things on, as well as testing out a variety of different resolutions to see if I could get this thing running stable, but unfortunately nothing I did worked besides installing those aforementioned community patches, and even after trying my Ryzen 3 and i5-3470 for a bit of variation, nothing really improved the gameplay. I even switched to Windows 7 with similar results. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Despite its problems, this is still one of my all-time favourite games, but after playing it again today, I just had to share my performance findings with you, as I'm not sure I've ever encountered anything that runs so badly on the PC. Guys, if you like this video, leave a like on it. If you didn't, leave a dislike. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. As always, thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.